I was leaving the attorney's office, my heart pounding like a drum. My mother's brother, Uncle Gerald Sterling, had left me 4 apartment complexes in Cleveland and a secluded beach house on the Carolina coast. The paperwork was clean, transferring everything, unencumbered, into my name alone. The lawyer cited the valuation and my hands trembled. Close to $60 million in total assets. On the drive home, I stopped for some groceries. Apples, shortbread cookies, and a 6-pack of George Miller's favorite cold brew coffee. I planned to make his favorite home-style meatloaf and mashed potatoes. The first crackle of the frying pan always filled our home with comfort. As I reached the front porch, my hand froze on the doorknob. From inside, I heard my daughter-in-law, Scarlett Miller's voice. "Mom, just sign the power of attorney form. We can shift everything into Sam Miller's name and move her into the garden's assisted living." I already toured a room. Then George's low, firm reply. "Have her sign it on Saturday before she reads the will. I've been telling everyone for months she's becoming forgetful, mixing up dates. She'll be emotional, she won't read the fine print. We'll tell her it's just updating our old wills." My breath hitched. 42 years of marriage shattered like glass in that single moment. My grocery bag slipped and a coffee bottle hit the porch with a dull thud. Silence. Noise. Scarlett hissed. Instantly I composed myself. "George, I'm home. My arms are full. Can you open the door?" I walked in. They were sitting on opposite ends of the sofa, faces a mask of innocence as if nothing had been discussed. George folded his newspaper with his usual smile. "How was the lawyer?" "Big day." I put on a matching smile. "Just a mountain of paperwork. Gerald left me some properties, the apartment complexes in Ohio and the beach house. Haven't seen them yet." Scarlett's voice was syrupy sweet. "Wow, Mom. Well, we should all sit down this weekend and look over the papers. We'd be happy to help you understand them." I caught their eyes meet in the reflection of the kitchen window. One darted away, the other blinked slowly. I put the roast in the oven and started the potatoes, measuring the seasoning with practiced ease. On the outside, I was the devoted housewife, busy in the kitchen. Inside, a cold stone had settled. That night in bed, George's snores were the same, but every sound carried a new meaning. How long had he been telling people I was forgetful? How many times had he subtly corrected me in front of friends, making me look diminished? I lay awake, wondering, was I truly forgetting, or was my role being written into someone else's script? The next morning, I made his favorite coffee. 1 spoon of sugar, a splash of cream. He gave me a light peck on the cheek. "Morning." The taste in my mouth was like ashes, but I smiled. "I'm meeting an old friend for lunch today, Patricia." I lied. I needed time and space to think. "Good," he said, picking up his cup. "And remember, we have that 2 p.m. appointment Saturday at Henderson and Pierce. We need to update our wills now that Gerald is gone." "You agreed." His tone was soft, explaining, yet utterly condescending, like checking a child's homework. I lowered my eyes. "Yes, Saturday." As soon as he left, I sat in the kitchen, gripping my coffee cup. I didn't need to write anything down. I learned that from Uncle Gerald when we used to play spy games. The list stays in the mind. 1. Identify what George has access to. 2. Understand my legal rights. 3. Find out what else they are hiding. 4. Secure myself without raising suspicion. I retrieved the old photo album from the top shelf of the closet. Flipping through the photos calmed my mind while I surveyed the house. His dresser drawers, his briefcase, a worn cover of an old ledger. Places he assumed I'd never look. I wasn't hunting for anything big yet. Day 1 was about mapping the territory. Where were the locks, the keys, the files? I was taking mental photographs. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the recording app, checked the settings, auto record on even when the screen was off, and placed it face down on the table. My expression remained the same, calm, ordinary. But inside, a new thread had been spun. By noon I called Sam. "Sweetheart, lunch tomorrow?" His voice was warm. "Anytime, Mom." "Noon at the Lucky Spoon?" I sighed with relief. There was no guile in his tone. Scarlett hadn't brought him into the deep end of the plan yet. When George came home that evening, I wasn't in fry mode. I was in observe mode. The dust on his shoes was wrong, not local dirt. He must have stopped somewhere. The keychain in his pocket was heavy, with the distinct clink of a new key. He sat down and said, Let's go to Sam's tonight. We can talk about how to manage everything as a family. I stifled a laugh. He thought I would follow his lead. Sure, I said slowly. I'll bake a pie. Sam loves my pecan pie. He nodded, but his eyes weren't on me. They were on the wall clock. He was seeing Saturday at 2 p.m. That night, I rehearsed in front of the mirror. Furrowed brow, worried lips, a hint of moisture in the eyes. The portrait of a fragile woman who would sign documents without reading them. I felt both sorrow for the lie and a strange pride in my performance. The next morning I met Sam. The diner smelled of coffee and sizzling bacon. As he sat down, he said, "Mom, you look different. Not bad, just sharp." I smiled. Age makes you sharp, son. Listen to me. If your father or Scarlett ever ask you to sign any papers relating to my new assets, call me first. Don't sign anything unread ever. He looked startled. Odd request, Mom. But okay. Promise. I nodded. That was all. On my way back, I bought a silk scarf similar to the one Scarlett liked. I had decided to give it to her that evening. A small gesture of affection to lower their guard. When I got home, George was in his den speaking softly on the phone. I pressed my ear to the door. The signatures are mandatory by Monday or we lose the leverage. Don't mention it to Sam. If we have to send Mom to the home, we'll do it. My blood boiled, but my face remained serene. I deliberately made a small clatter with the pots in the kitchen to signal I was home, and that I hadn't heard a thing. At dinner, I gave Scarlett the scarf. She smiled and said, "You always know how to win me over, Mom." I returned her smile. "You feel like my own daughter, Scarlett. You've settled in nicely." A flicker of sharpness crossed her eyes, but she lowered her gaze. She was casting her line, waiting for me to bite. When dinner ended, George pulled out a file. "These are standard legal documents. Power of attorney, health proxy will update. Sign them and you'll be safe." For the first time, I looked him straight in the eye. "May I read them first? Uncle Gerald always told me to read legal papers 3 times. A brief flicker of annoyance crossed his face. "Of course, read them. They're standard forms." I didn't touch the pages. I just said, "I'll read them tomorrow. My head is aching tonight." He closed the file. "Fine. But the 2 p.m. Saturday appointment is locked in." I took a sip of my tea. Locked in. That night, I retrieved Grandma's old sewing box from the highest shelf. It contained trinkets, old stamps, and an antique fountain pen. As I held the pen, I laughed faintly. Grandma used to say, "The pen in your hand writes the truth." I put it back. I picked up my phone, put my finger on the recording app, and then hesitated. Not yet. Not until the time was right. I was not going to run or rush. I was going to move with intention. A clear thought echoed in my mind. I am not a pawn. I will move my own pieces. The legal maneuvers. I reminded the grocery delivery driver to come late on Saturday, mentioning we might have guests. Small, normal acts built trust in their eyes. George gave me a final reminder before leaving. Saturday, 2 p.m. Henderson and Pierce. Don't you dare say no. I smiled. Why would I say no? I just want to read them. He looked satisfied, but the pace of his steps suggested he was agitated. As Saturday approached, my fear gave way to a cold, quiet courage. Uncle Gerald's voice seemed to whisper, "Think 3 moves ahead, the king is not the target, habit is the enemy." Friday evening, Scarlett said over tea, "Mom, I'll come with you tomorrow. I can help explain things." I put my hand over hers. "Please do. It's always good to have family nearby." My fingers were cold, but my voice was warm. I looked in the mirror one last time that night. The face that looked innocent to them now held a clear inscription for me. "This game will be played on my terms," George said as he turned off the bedside lamp. "We leave at 1:30. Don't be late." "Okay," I said, closing my eyes. And at that moment I decided, tomorrow I will not say yes. Tomorrow the game board moves to my table. And tomorrow I will finally ask the bold questions. Saturday morning, the clock hit 8 a.m., but my mind had been awake all night. I made coffee quietly. My to-do list was clear. Truth, then safety, then confrontation. First, I found the small gray pouch on George's top shelf, where he kept old stamps. Beneath them, a thin black USB drive. My heart raced. My hands were steady. I locked the bedroom door from the inside and opened the files on my laptop. Scanned drafts of a power of attorney, bank transfer forms, and worst of all, practice sheets of my signature. My handwriting, how my D closed, the loop in my M, all meticulously analyzed and practiced. I felt dizzy. This greed wasn't cultivated in a day. It had been nourished for years. I photographed every file, uploaded them to a secure cloud folder, and replaced the USB drive in the exact position. At 9:30 a.m. I took a cab across town. My name was already on the register at Vance & Partners. Eleanor Lena Vance was direct. Tell me everything. No holding back. I narrated the overheard conversation, the gardens, the Saturday plan, and the contents of the USB drive. She listened calmly, her eyes like steel. This is not just greed. It is calculated elder financial fraud, she stated. First, we must immediately park your inherited assets into an irrevocable trust. You are the sole trustee. Second, you sign absolutely nothing today. Third, record everything. Words, tones, and pressure are evidence. How long for the trust? I asked. The draft is ready. She slid a document across the desk. One signature, and this inheritance is outside the scope of marital assets. What is yours remains yours. My hand shook as I picked up the pen, but the line was straight. As I signed, something settled within me, like getting the key back into my own hand. Lena outlined the next move. At Henderson and Pierce, look for the words immediate and irrevocable. That's the trap. It means immediate transfer of control and you can't undo it. Fat clauses there stop the game. Say, I will read this, consult my attorney and decide later. If they pressure you, say one sentence. I am taking a copy of the documents with me. As I stood up, she added softly, and one more thing. Your husband filed pre-admission papers for you at the gardens 3 weeks ago, before the will was even public. I have the date, signature, and phone logs. The sand seemed to shift beneath my feet. This plan didn't start because of the money. The money just poured gasoline on a fire already lit. I was in the glass-walled conference room at Henderson and Pierce. Across the table sat Mr. Henderson, young, gleaming tie, a smile that showed all his teeth. To my right, George. To my left, Scarlett, with her small, controlled smile. A thick fan of files lay on the table. I silenced my phone, turned the screen off, and subtly clicked the clip of the small voice recorder pen in my bag. George flashed his sweetest look. It's all standard, dear. Just sign and we'll be secure. I'd like to read it myself, I said. I picked up the first sheet, the durable power of attorney. I traced the lines with my finger. On page 4, the font was tiny. This authorization shall be effective immediately upon signing and may not be revoked. Immediate and irrevocable. The named agent shall have unlimited authority over all real and personal property, accounts, investments, litigation, sales, purchases, and even gifting rights. My face stared back at me in the window, a storm brewing behind my eyes. But my breathing was even. It was the exact trap Lena had described. Mr. Henderson, I said, looking up. Why is this power of attorney immediate and irrevocable? He didn't blink, still smiling. For convenience, madam. Say you're traveling. Mrs. Miller, Scarlett, is the successor agent. She needs to sign a document. I flipped the next page. Agent, George. Successor agent, Scarlett. Third line, blank. I set the papers down. So, if I get the flu, the agent could gift away my property? Says gifting rights, no limit right here. George's smile slipped. Why are you scared? We've been married for 42 years. Don't you trust me? The quiet voice of Uncle Gerald returned. Think 3 moves ahead. I kept my voice calm. I trust you, which is why I'm reading it. And that is why I will not sign today. The air in the room thickened. Henderson's pen froze. Scarlett quickly changed her tone. Mom, we just want to help. I looked at her. Help is when you strengthen my hand, not empty it. George pushed his chair back. Leave us alone for 2 minutes. He instructed Mr. Henderson. As the door closed, George's voice changed. Stop the drama. You weren't born to understand this. The house is your job, the law is mine. I straightened my back in the chair. The law is my job too now. I will consult my lawyer and give you my decision tomorrow. Not today. What lawyer? He narrowed his eyes. Mine, I replied as easily as he had lied to me. The familiar look returned to his face. First surprise, then anger, then contempt. Money changes people, he sneered. I slid the files back toward him slightly. Or perhaps money simply reveals who people truly are. When Mr. Henderson returned, I said, Mr. Henderson, please make copies. I'm taking them with me. The copies don't leave the office, he began. I stopped him, my voice quiet but firm. I have the right to read my own documents. If you refuse, I will state for the record that you are denying a client copies of documents that appoint a fiduciary over her assets. 3 seconds of silence. Then Mr. Henderson stood up and made the copies. I verified every page before placing them in my folder. The recorder pen silently captured the voices, the tone, and the words. Walking out, George tried to grip my elbow. I pulled my arm away. Don't touch me again. Consider that a legal warning. He stood momentarily frozen. The small pen in my pocket continued to record. The parking lot air was cool. I called Lena. I caught the clause. Didn't sign. I have the copies. Excellent. Her voice came back relieved. And I've already filed the paperwork for your irrevocable trust with the registry. What is yours is now behind a legal wall. Sleep well tonight. Tomorrow the next move. The next move? I asked. Change the venue. Don't fight on their ground. Apply pressure where they feel strongest. The family dinner table. And keep recording. I spun the recorder pen in my fingers. The one that gathered truth with a click. I sat in the cab looking at my reflection in the glass. Same eyes, but the light was different. Fear was there, yes. But beyond the fear stood a clear intention. As evening fell, George tried to act normal. Let's go to Sam's tonight. We'll talk it through as a family. His voice was sweet, but underneath I could hear the clang of metal. Let's go, I said. I'll bring the pie. Sam loves it. I turned off the stove. I slung my bag over my shoulder and quietly moved the recorder pen from my bag to my jacket pocket. Now the words wouldn't be mine. They would be evidence. At Sam's apartment, the door opened warmly. Mom's here, he called out. Scarlett smiled from the kitchen. 5 more minutes for dinner, Mom. I put my bait down. The recorder pen was already on. I'll chop the salad, I said, stepping into the kitchen. Scarlett handed me a knife. You just relax. We're doing a little family planning tonight. She emphasized the last 2 words. I chopped the tomatoes, pretending not to hear. At the dining table, Sam poured water. Mom, let's just talk tonight. No papers until tomorrow. George pushed the file, which he'd placed by his chair, closer to the table. We need to cover the basics for security. I asked gently, tell me plainly what the power of attorney does. If I get sick, you can sign for me? Scarlett was quick. Yes, absolutely. And if necessary, we can sell property, transfer assets, even make donations. I nodded. So, no limits? She smiled. Why would there be limits, Mom? It's family. After dinner, Scarlett sent the kids upstairs. 3 faces, 1 file remained. George slid the first sheet toward me. Look it over, then sign. It's immediately effective so things don't get tied up. Immediately effective, I repeated. And can it ever be reversed? No, George replied. But why would you need to? I'm here. I looked up straight at him. And after you, Scarlett is the agent. Scarlett lowered her eyes. It's family. Trust us. I straightened in my chair. One more question. The room at the Gardens Assisted Living you checked out. What was that for? A moment of pure shock. Scarlett's eyes darted to Sam. Sam stared at me. George covered his surprise poorly. Who told you? We were just exploring options for our future security. Exploring options is fine, I said calmly. Checking out a room for me without me is not fine. Why the home, Dad? Sam's voice was sharp for the first time. George's voice hardened. Sam, this is a grown-up conversation. Your mother gets emotional. It's hard for her to understand legal matters. I picked up the second sheet. It says here, gifting rights no limit. If I were bedridden with a cold, you could give away my entire inheritance. Is that also family planning? Scarlett tried to laugh it off. You're misreading it, Mom. I turned the page to face her. Read it. The room temperature dropped. Sam looked at the page and slowly pushed his chair back. Why is this all so immediate? And Scarlett, why is your name on there? Scarlett forced a smile. Just a formality. I spoke softly. It's not a formality, dear. It's a strategy. George leaned over and picked up the pen by my hand. Sign it, Dorothy. This is for your own good. Pick the pen back. No one is signing anything for my good today. 2 seconds of absolute silence. George gritted his teeth. You don't understand. In 42 years, you've never read a single document. The home is your work. The law is mine. I met his gaze, my voice low but iron strong. The law is my work now too. And I'm taking the copies with me. Sam stepped in. Dad, she's taking the copies. That's it. George shot him a furious look. Stay out of this. Sam paused, then turned to me. Mom, take the copies and go home to read them. I took my copies. As I left, Scarlett followed me to the door. Mom, this misunderstanding will pass. Just sign it and everything will go back to normal. And if anything happens, don't worry, we'll take care of it. I looked at her. What happens, Scarlett, is not up to chance. On the stairs, Sam quietly held my arm. Mom, are you okay? I'm fine. I squeezed his hand. Meet me at the Lucky Spoon tomorrow at 8 a.m. Alone. Don't tell anyone about tonight. Promise. George followed me to the gate and tried to grab my wrist. I yanked it away. Don't touch me. Consider this your final warning. And anything you have to say to me, say it on the phone so it's recorded. He stood rooted to the spot. The small pen in my pocket continued to record. The field of battle shifts. I drove home and turned on the kitchen light. Everything was in its place. The spice jars, the steel tins, Grandma's pen. I took the copies from my bag, highlighted the dangerous clauses, and placed them in an old binder hidden behind the photo album. The cover read, Aunt Martha's Recipes. Anyone looking would pass right over it. I called Lena. I have the recording. The words are clear. Immediate, irrevocable, the gardens. The copies are safe. The next step is to change the venue, Lena said. Don't run, make a move. Either file a complaint or leave town to physically inspect your properties. Their greatest strength is believing you are weak and alone. Show them you are strong even alone. That's how the game turns. I looked out the window at the yellow streetlights. A clear decision formed. I came out of the kitchen. George was in his study, the door half open, his voice low. If it's not signed by Monday, we lose control. Don't tell Sam. The doctor's route is still open. I intentionally made my footsteps louder. He hung up. I'm leaving in 2 days, I said, looking straight into his eyes. For 2 weeks. I'm driving to Cleveland to see the 4 complexes and then the beach house. I'll meet the tenants and understand the paperwork. He staggered back. You, alone? You haven't driven 400 miles in 40 years. Then I'll start now, I said, picking up my keys. This is my inheritance. I will know it on my own terms. And until I return, no papers are to be signed. If you try to force anything, yesterday's recording where you confirmed the gardens and the immediacy of the POA goes to my lawyer. His face cycled through disbelief, anger, and outrage. Are you threatening me? No, I said, placing Grandma's pen on the table. I am stating the facts. That night was long, but for the first time I slept deeply. Sam met me at the diner. The anxiety in his eyes was clear. Mom, last night Scarlett said it was all for my benefit. And Dad said if you didn't cooperate, you'd have to be made to cooperate. What does that mean? I squeezed his hand. It means exactly what you think. Son, listen carefully. If you ever see transfer papers or loan documents with my signature, assume they are fake. I will not sign anything without my lawyer present. He closed his eyes momentarily. I'm with you, Mom. That evening I prepared. A flashlight, a small padlock, and a burner phone/SIM. I told George in a normal voice. Here are the house keys. I leave Monday at 6 a.m. I have my route and lodging planned. He was furious. I forbid you to go. I served dinner. Who gave you the authority to forbid me? I am not a child. I am the owner, and owners inspect their property. He made his move. If you won't listen to reason, I'll talk to the doctor. You're clearly not fit to manage your own affairs. I pushed my plate away. Then tomorrow I'll talk to the court with the recording. The decision will be a legal one, not a medical one. He fell silent, but the heat of his threat remained. I went to my room, packed 2 outfits, a small notebook, the new SIM, and grandma's pen. I looked in the mirror. Same face, but now bearing a new name. Mine. The walls come down. At 5 a.m. Monday, I put the car key in the ignition when my phone rang. An unknown number. I activated the recorder and answered. A hushed, distorted voice. If you leave, you won't be coming back. I replied without a trace of fear. Your threat is recorded. Silence. The line cut. I timestamped the call and put the car in drive. The road was empty, the sky clear. My intention was crystal clear. I won't return in fear. I'll return with knowledge. The first stop was Cleveland. The 4 buildings were exactly as described. Brick, wide stairwells, the smell of lilacs in the hallways. The nameplate was pristine. Gerald's Legacy Apartments. The manager, Trish Jensen, welcomed me. Your uncle was a man of integrity, like a father to the tenants. I got straight to business. Starting today, I manage the papers and the decisions. Tell me anything unusual. Trish slid a folder across. A gentleman came yesterday. Said he was your husband, claimed you were ill and that he needed to sell quickly. He offered 2 tenants cash bonuses to move immediately. A cold pit formed in my stomach. George had already started undermining the ground. Who did he approach? I asked. Mrs. Davis in 2A and Mr. Peterson in 4B. They were frantic, asking if they should leave. Gather everyone in the community hall at 6 p.m. I will talk to them myself. Trish nodded. And this, she handed me an envelope. Your uncle said to give this to Dorothy, if she ever came alone. I opened it. Gerald's firm handwriting. Daughter, if you are reading this, you are likely having to fight for what is yours. I put everything in your name alone to prevent commingling. George came to me last year asking about my health and property values. I suspected then. I installed layers of protection in the documents. You are stronger than you know. Don't be afraid. Tears welled up, but my throat remained steady. It felt like a hand on my shoulder. I'm with you. By afternoon, I had inspected every unit. Leaky gutters, rusty pipes, empty apartments. I noted key security changes. CCTV cameras at the main gate and a visitor log in the office. Anyone wanting to talk to a tenant must register first. At 6 p.m. the hall was packed. I stood at a chair, Trish by my side. I am the owner, I began. But ownership means responsibility, not authority. A man claiming to be my husband told some of you these buildings would be sold. That is a lie. I am healthy, my mind is clear, and there are no changes. Anyone who is offered a moving bonus, please raise your hand. 3 hands went up. Thank you. This is harassment. You're all safe. We will be moving rent payment online and maintenance requests to a new app. Anyone who visits you must register downstairs first. If someone comes to your door unannounced, send them down. Mrs. Davis stood up. Madam, you've made it clear. We are staying. The room applauded. Trust was slowly returning. I called Lena. George reached out to the tenants, spreading lies. File an immediate police report for tenant harassment. I'm filing an application for a temporary restraining order, TRO. He will not be allowed within 200 yards of you, your property, or the tenants. I emailed the audio threat. An hour later, her message came back. Hearing tomorrow morning. Join via video conference. At 2 a.m. the phone rang again. Unknown number. I put it on speaker, recording. Running away won't help you. The same suppressed voice. I said quietly, I'll see you in court tomorrow. I hung up. In the morning video hearing, the judge heard both sides. Lena presented the audio threat, the visitor log notes, and the manager's affidavit. The judge signed the order. Defendant George Miller is restrained for 30 days from coming within 200 yards of the petitioner, her property, or her tenants. Violation means immediate arrest. I read the small text on the screen. It wasn't just paper. It was a wall of freedom. The reckoning. That afternoon Sam called. Mom, Dad is saying you're sick and messing everything up. He showed me papers to sign, for the family. Don't sign anything, I said calmly. Assume any POA, transfer, or loan with my name on it is forged. If he pressures you, video call me. Lena will join the line. He hung up. The sound of his steadying breath told me that a single decision was all it took to move from fear to loyalty. I spent the next 2 days setting up new security and management systems. On the 4th day, I caught an overnight train to the coast. The next morning, the air smelled of salt. The caretaker, Harry Lowe, gave me the key to the beach house. Uncle Gerald said to always keep it open. A house is only a home when the air moves through it. In the living room, an old wooden trunk held a note for Dorothy, blueprints of the buildings, and a small notebook, names of tenants he trusted. Looking at the blueprints, a quiet desire stirred, to draw my own lines. That evening, the phone rang. It was my forensic accountant, Devin Jones. Ma'am, initial trail found. Your husband has a storage unit outside the city. We found nursing home brochures, your signature practice sheets, and ledgers showing recurring credit card transfers from accounts in your name. To whom? My hands gripped the railing. The salty air tasted like iron. A name comes up repeatedly, Audrey Palmer. $5,000 transferred every month for the last 5 years. Either a silent partner or something else. We'll know by tomorrow. Just then Sam flashed on my screen. I switched lines. Mom, Dad is panicking. He said if you return from the beach house, he'll end everything. I lowered my voice. Stay calm, son. I'm messaging the police now. A TRO violation. Take the kids and come join me here for a few days. The ocean air pushes fear away. I emailed Lena and the local police. Audio timestamp, location, TRO violation. I stood on the porch watching the waves. They didn't stop or break sequence for anyone's threat. At 7:10 a.m. the local detective called. Ma'am, your husband was apprehended at a bank, attempting to process fraudulent paperwork. We need your formal complaint and statement. I locked the beach house, turned the key, and drove to the precinct. Eleanor Vance was waiting. We laid out the evidence. The recorded threats, the USB drive scans, the signature practice sheets from the storage unit, the pre-admission forms for the gardens, the tenant affidavits, and the fake loan application. The detective closed the file. This is straight-up fraud and forgery, ma'am. We are filing charges. In the subsequent court appearance, George's request for bail was granted, but under strict conditions. No contact with me, the properties, or the tenants, and mandatory weekly check-ins at the station. As he left the courtroom, he tried to read my face. For the first time, I realized his hands were shaking, not mine. Devin Jones's forensic report arrived 5 days later. A clear map of financial diversion, 3 shell companies, co-signed checks in my name, and the $5,000 monthly transfer to Audrey Palmer. A relationship spanning 5 years. Now we have a solid criminal case, Lena said. We have to keep the sequence of truth clean. Sam and the children arrived at the beach house that evening. The children rushed to hug me. Grandma, look at the ocean. Sam said quietly, Mom, I'm filing for divorce from Scarlett. He pushed the papers with Dad. I'm out. I put my hand on his head. Relationships end where the truth ends. You made the right choice. A week later, I was back in Cleveland. I held a meeting with the tenants, the new security manager, and Trish. The new online rent portal was active. I showed them the new maintenance app. I installed 2 new security cameras on each building. I put up a small brass plaque by the main gate. Gerald's legacy, a home first. Mrs. Davis clapped. How we believe you, madam. The trials followed. The defense argued it was a marital dispute, and that I was emotional. I testified with only the facts. The immediate and irrevocable clause, the gifting rights, the prearranged room at the gardens. This was not a family plan. This was a plan for my incapacitation. Devin Jones showed the account screenshots. The fraudulent co-signing, the payments to the mistress, the signature practice sheets. Trish Jensen confirmed the tenant harassment. I played the recorded threat. The court fell silent. The judge found George Miller guilty of forgery, fraud, and criminal conspiracy. The subsequent civil suit confirmed the irrevocable trust was valid, and the inherited assets were separate. The bank sent an apology letter, having updated its fraud alert systems. The restraining order was made permanent. I looked at Lena and Devin. You turned my fear into data. I stood on the porch of the beach house, opening the blueprints. The air was salty, the waves were rhythmic, and I was drawing thin lines with my pencil. Where the kitchen light should fall, the width of the railing, the view of the horizon from the guest room. I was designing a home for my own mind. Back in Cleveland, I hosted a gathering. Tenants, staff, and my children. Sam said softly, Mom, I don't feel scared anymore. I put my hand on his shoulder. Even if you are scared, I won't stop now. The children ran up to me. Grandma, when will you take us to the ocean? I promised them. Next month. And you'll count the waves yourselves. That night, I opened Grandma's pen. The ink was still blue. I wrote a line in my journal. I am not a pawn. I am my own move. The weight lifted from my shoulders. The new voice settled within me. Mine. If anyone ever tries to diminish you in your own name, read the papers 3 times, record the voices, and let the facts defeat the fear.
The Irrevocable Trust.
Have you not subscribed my channel? Please subscribe now. This is free. Just hit